Meryl Streep was set to appear on Jimmy Kimmel Live to promote her latest film, a powerful drama exploring media manipulation and journalistic responsibility. What followed, however, carried a certain irony that wasn't lost on anyone watching. As Meryl stepped onto the stage that evening, the audience welcomed her with their usual enthusiastic applause. She greeted them with a gracious wave, her signature warm smile lighting up her face as she took her seat across from Jimmy. The cameras rolled, the crowd quieted, and Jimmy began with what appeared to be routine late-night conversation. "So Meryl, always great to have you back," he said, smiling in his usual familiar way. "In your new movie, you play a journalist who stands up to powerful figures. Is that something you personally identify with?" Meryl shifted in her seat, her expression reflective. "Well, Jimmy, I think anyone in the spotlight faces moments where they have to choose between speaking out or staying quiet. It's really about standing by your values, even when it's tough." Jimmy's smile widened, but there was a subtle change in his tone that slightly altered the room's energy. "Interesting," he said, "because I've heard you've got some strong opinions about certain political leaders. Care to share any of those with us tonight?" The question lingered in the air, carrying the weight of a challenge. Meryl sat a little straighter, her voice even and deliberate. "Jimmy, I'm here to talk about the film and the meaningful topics it raises. I'd really prefer to keep the spotlight on that." "Oh, come on, Meryl," Jimmy pressed, leaning forward with that same uneasy smile. "The audience loves when celebrities speak their minds. Don't you think it's your responsibility to be honest with them? You've never been one to hold back before." The tone had clearly shifted, and it seemed the conversation was heading in an unexpected direction. The audience sensed it too, their earlier excitement giving way to a growing discomfort. "There's a difference," Meryl responded calmly, though her tone had taken on a firmer edge, familiar to anyone who knew her performances. "Between sharing views and turning a promotional interview into a political cross-examination, I'm here to discuss a film that questions the ethics of media. I think we should stay on that topic." Jimmy laughed, though it lacked his usual warmth. "Media ethics? That's an interesting take coming from someone known for speaking out at award shows. Tell me, Meryl, should celebrities stick to entertaining, or do you believe it's your place to shape political conversation?" The question was clearly crafted to put her on the spot, and Meryl recognized it instantly. Years of handling tough directors and demanding roles had prepared her for tense situations. But this moment felt different. More pointed, more personal. "I believe every individual has the right to express their opinions," she responded thoughtfully. "But I also think it's important to choose the right time and place for those conversations. A promotional interview for a film about journalistic integrity may not be the best setting for what feels like a setup." The word setup landed hard. Jimmy's smile faltered briefly, returning with less warmth and more tension. "Setup? That's a strong accusation, Meryl. I'm just asking questions. Isn't that what journalists do? I thought you'd appreciate that considering your film's theme." "There's a line between asking meaningful questions and stirring up controversy for entertainment," Meryl replied, her tone measured but unmistakably firm. "Responsible journalism seeks to inform and educate, not to catch guests off guard for spectacle." The studio grew noticeably still. Even the typically active production team seemed frozen in place. Jimmy's expression began to shift, the polished friendliness giving way to something sharper. "You know what, Meryl?" he said coolly. "Maybe you're right. Let's get back to your film. Tell us about this character, this bold journalist you play. Is she modeled after someone who sees themselves as above others?" Meryl's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you implying that advocating for ethical reporting makes someone self-righteous? Because if that's your stance, then I think you've just highlighted the film's message more clearly than I could." "I'm suggesting," Jimmy said, his voice raised slightly, "that some people in this industry believe they're in a position to preach just because they can deliver lines and show emotion on screen." The comment was clearly meant to provoke, but Meryl Streep, known for her poise and professionalism, didn't take the bait. Instead, she leaned back and studied Jimmy with a calm, almost teacher-like expression. "That's quite a view," she said quietly, "especially from someone whose work often involves making jokes about people's personal lives. Tell me, Jimmy, when you write those bits about someone's appearance, their relationships, their struggles, Do you think about the person behind those jokes, or are they just material to you? The question clearly struck a nerve. Jimmy's face turned red, and for a brief moment, his usual polished on-screen demeanor vanished. "At least I'm not pretending to be something I'm not," he snapped. "At least I'm not out there on stage acting like I'm saving the world while collecting multi-million-dollar paychecks." "And there it is," Meryl replied, her voice cutting through the tension with precision. "The real Jimmy Kimmel. Not the friendly host people are used to seeing, but someone who seems to resent successful women voicing their opinions. Someone who believes that earning money somehow invalidates a person's right to care about real-world issues." The words hit hard. Jimmy's expression shifted from flushed to pale as he struggled for a response that wouldn't escalate the situation. "You want to talk about resentment," he finally said, his voice uneven. "You show up on my program, act like you're above answering basic questions, and then try to analyze me on national television." Meryl remained composed, a calmness that seemed to bother Jimmy even more. "I'm not analyzing you, Jimmy. I'm responding to how you're acting. You invited me here to discuss my film, then immediately tried to push me into making political statements that could be turned into headlines. When I didn't go along, you reacted with hostility. That's not analysis, that's observation." "Hostility?" Jimmy's voice grew louder, his usual on-air composure fading quickly. "You were the one who brought up ambushes and media ethics. You turned this into a lecture on morality." "Because that's exactly what my film addresses," Meryl said, her tone steady. "You could have asked about my preparation for the role, the creative team behind the project, or the challenges we faced during filming, but instead you chose to make this about something else. And I'm asking why." Leaning forward, Jimmy gripped the edge of his desk, frustration visible. "You know what your problem is, Meryl? You think being a talented actress makes you morally superior. You think just because you can move people on screen, that gives you the right to tell everyone else how to live." "I've never claimed to tell anyone how to live," Meryl replied calmly. "But like every citizen, I'm entitled to my opinions. The difference is, when you disagree with what I think, you have a national platform to criticize me. When I disagree with you, I'm expected to smile and remain silent." The studio audience had fallen completely silent, watching the exchange unfold with uncomfortable attention. A few crew members had even stopped working, realizing they were witnessing a moment that might be remembered for a long time. Jimmy let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, poor Meryl Streep, being picked on by mean old Jimmy Kimmel. Do you hear yourself? You're one of the most influential figures in Hollywood, and now you're acting like you're being mistreated just because someone asked a few direct questions." "Tough questions?" Meryl raised an eyebrow, the first sign that her composure might be slipping. "That's what you call this? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like a reaction from someone annoyed that their guest won't play along." "Play along?" Jimmy's tone rose, and his face turned visibly red. "You're an actress, Meryl. Performing is literally what you do, and right now you're delivering a textbook example of playing the victim." Meryl's expression grew firmer, and for the first time her voice carried an unmistakable edge. "You know what, Jimmy? You're right. I am an actress. And because of that, I can recognize a performance when I see one. Your friendly host act, this approachable late-night personality, it's clearly staged, and not a very convincing one." The comment lingered, sharp and direct. Jimmy's mouth opened slightly as he cycled through reactions before responding. When he finally did, his voice was lower and more pointed. "At least I don't fake emotions and call it art. At least I'm not in the business of stirring people's feelings for money and pretending it's a public service." "Fake emotions?" Meryl replied, her voice now quiet but firm. "So that's how you see acting? Emotional manipulation for profit?" Interesting words coming from someone whose entire career relies on making jokes at the expense of people who don't have a voice. "People who don't have a voice?" Jimmy stood up abruptly, his chair sliding back. "You're pushing back just fine. In fact, you seem to be enjoying this. Is this your approach now? Appear on shows and create tension just to boost attention for your movies?" Meryl rose too, her stance calm but clearly assertive. "No, Jimmy. This is how I respond when someone invites me under false pretenses, and then acts surprised when I don't go along with their setup. This is how I react when someone confuses a platform with influence and an audience with authority. My audience. Jimmy gestured broadly toward the quiet crowd. These people came to be entertained. They didn't come to watch you deliver a lecture in superiority. They came to laugh, not to be talked down to by someone who believes she's above everyone else. The studio audience had fallen completely silent, watching the exchange unfold with uncomfortable attention. A few crew members had even stopped working, realizing they were witnessing a moment that might be remembered for a long time. Jimmy let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh, poor Meryl Streep, being picked on by mean old Jimmy Kimmel. Do you hear yourself? You're one of the most influential figures in Hollywood, and now you're acting like you're being mistreated, just because someone asked a few direct questions. Tough questions. Meryl raised an eyebrow, the first sign that her composure might be slipping. That's what you call this. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like a reaction from someone annoyed that their guest won't play along. Play along? Jimmy's tone rose, and his face turned visibly red. You're an actress, Meryl. Performing is literally what you do, and right now you're delivering a textbook example of playing the victim. Meryl's expression grew firmer, and for the first time, her voice carried an unmistakable edge. You know what, Jimmy? You're right. I am an actress. And because of that, I can recognize a performance when I see one. Your friendly host act. This approachable late-night personality. It's clearly staged, and not a very convincing one. The comment lingered, sharp and direct. Jimmy's mouth opened slightly as he cycled through reactions before responding. When he finally did, his voice was lower and more pointed. At least I don't fake emotions and call it art. At least I'm not in the business of stirring people's feelings for money and pretending it's a public service. Fake emotions? Meryl replied, her voice now quiet but firm. So that's how you see acting? Emotional manipulation for profit? Interesting words coming from someone whose entire career relies on making jokes at the expense of people who don't have a voice. People who don't have a voice? Jimmy stood up abruptly, his chair sliding back. You're pushing back just fine. In fact, you seem to be enjoying this. Is this your approach now? Appear on shows and create tension just to boost attention for your movies? Meryl rose too, her stance calm but clearly assertive. No, Jimmy. This is how I respond when someone invites me under false pretenses and then acts surprised when I don't go along with their setup. This is how I react when someone confuses a platform with influence and an audience with authority. My audience. Jimmy gestured broadly toward the quiet crowd. These people came to be entertained. They didn't come to watch you deliver a lecture in superiority. They came to laugh, not to be talked down to by someone who believes she's above everyone else. Meryl stood still, watching Jimmy's outburst with the composed detachment of someone observing a behavioral experiment. Jimmy, you're making my point for me. Just look at how you're acting right now in front of your audience, your crew, your cameras. Is this really how you want to be seen? Don't you dare, Jimmy snapped, pointing a finger at her. Don't try to psychoanalyze me. You're not my mother, not my friend. You're just another out-of-touch celebrity who thinks she can walk in here and tell me how to run my show. I'm not telling you how to do your job. Meryl responded steadily. I'm questioning whether this even qualifies as a job anymore. From here it looks more like a public meltdown. Jimmy's hands were trembling now, his anger barely contained. A meltdown? You think this is a meltdown? The only thing falling apart is your little performance, the calm, dignified Meryl Streep act. Well, guess what, Your Highness? This isn't one of your award-winning films. This is real life. And in the real world, actions come with consequences. Yes, they do, Meryl replied softly. And tonight, the consequence is that everyone watching gets to see who you really are when you think you're in control. Control? Jimmy laughed bitterly. You want to talk about control? I have the control to shut this down right now. I can expose the real you. I can— Do what? Meryl cut in, her voice calm but firm. Throw a fit on national television. Show everyone that you're exactly the kind of insecure, defensive host people have suspected you might be. Well done, Jimmy. You've certainly demonstrated your version of power tonight. Jimmy's face flushed a deep shade of red. He spoke in a low, tight voice. Get off my stage. The room fell completely silent. Even the cameras seemed to pause. Meryl tilted her head slightly, unsure if she'd heard correctly.
Come again?
You heard me, Jimmy growled. Get off my stage. This is my show, my studio, and I want you gone. Now. Meryl's face remained unchanged, but her posture shifted. She no longer appeared to be simply responding as a guest. She was now standing her ground. Your stage, she repeated. This isn't yours, Jimmy. This is television. It belongs to the network, the sponsors, and the viewers. You're just the person hired to sit at that desk, and right now, you're failing at it. Security, Jimmy shouted, his voice cracking. I want her out of here. Now! Several security staff members in suits began making their way toward the stage, their expressions controlled but clearly uneasy. This wasn't a situation they encountered often, and their hesitation made that clear. Meryl remained composed, watching them calmly. You're really having me removed from a studio because I wouldn't let you push me around? Because I called out your unprofessional behavior? This is how you handle criticism. My solution, Jimmy said through clenched teeth, is to remove toxic people from my space. I won't let arrogant celebrities come on my show and insult me, my audience, and everything I've worked hard for. Toxic? Meryl asked, genuinely surprised. I came here to discuss a film. You're the one who turned this into a personal attack. You escalated this with political jabs and unprovoked accusations. You've been shouting and losing control, and I'm the problem? The security team reached the stage, but their body language was uncertain. Removing a guest, especially someone as renowned as Meryl Streep, wasn't standard protocol. They looked between the two, clearly waiting for someone to take the lead and de-escalate. Jimmy noticed their hesitation, and his anger flared even more. Did I mumble? I said remove her from my studio. She's interfering. She's disrupting the show. I'm just sitting here, answering your questions, Meryl interjected, her tone composed. The only one causing a disruption is you. The only one creating a scene is you. And the only one likely to regret this tomorrow is also you. I'll never regret throwing out a smug, arrogant, self-important Jimmy, Meryl said sharply, cutting him off with precision. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself, your show, and the people who work with you. Take a look around. Check the faces of your audience, your crew. Do you see support, admiration, or do you see people who are stunned by how you're acting right now? Jimmy glanced around the studio at his audience, the staff, the band. What he saw seemed to deflate him slightly, though it left him more unsettled than calm. Get her out, he said to the security team. This time with less command and more desperation. Please, just escort her out. Meryl rose slowly, picking up her purse with calm deliberation. Don't bother, she replied, her voice clear and steady. I wouldn't stay on this stage another second, no matter what you offered. But I want everyone here to remember what happened tonight. They witnessed a professional woman come to do her job, and a man in power try to undermine her simply because she wouldn't play into his ego. Facing the audience now, and no longer acknowledging Jimmy, she continued, You watched someone use their platform, not to entertain or inform, but to lash out. You saw someone mistake having a microphone for having authority, and you saw what it looks like when someone like that gets challenged by someone who won't back down. Are you done? Jimmy asked weakly, the fire in his voice reduced to a low, resigned tone. Meryl looked at him for a long moment. When she finally responded, her words carried the weight of disappointment. I'm done, Jimmy. The real question is, are you? Because after tonight, after people see how you react when you're challenged, many will be rethinking whether they want to support someone who treats his guests like this. She walked steadily toward the exit, head high and posture poised. At the edge of the stage, she turned once more. Good luck explaining this to your network tomorrow, she said softly. Then she exited, leaving Jimmy standing alone, facing a silent audience and a crew that looked deeply uncomfortable. The cameras continued recording, capturing every second of Jimmy's unraveling, every beat of his realization that he might have just jeopardized everything he'd built. Somewhere in the control room, a producer was already on the phone, scrambling to figure out how to repair the fallout. But the moment had passed. The damage was done, and everyone knew it. So, what do you think? Could any other celebrity have handled Jimmy Kimmel's confrontation with as much composure and resolve as Meryl Streep? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more behind-the-scenes celebrity moments you won't find anywhere else.